meat folks, welcome back to the Meat Spot podcast. My name is Francisco Najar, and we have a very interesting episode ahead of us today. We got some folks from Colorado State University. We got many things to cover today. How are you, Dr. Bass, today?
Excited as usual, Francisco. This is a pretty special discussion we're about to have. It's very different from some of our previous episodes in that those have been a bit more technical and directly applied to processors making product. But we're going to take a little bit of different approach, obviously, today. And maybe it's not obvious quite yet, but it will be here shortly. I want to briefly introduce some of the folks that we have here visiting with us, and then I'm going to let them elaborate just a little bit more, and we'll get into the topic at hand. First and foremost, I need to. I'm beside myself. I'm really excited that the Dr. Bob Delmore is joining us today, and I say that with all due respect, because Dr. Bob was my major professor for my master's degree, and I was his very first graduate student, the guinea pig, many moons ago, of course. And now Dr. Bob is at Colorado State University, one of the leading experts in food safety, applied food safety. Really excited to have you here. And that's not going to be our topic, of course, today, but maybe someday we'll really dig deeper into that. And then also, right. and also on the line today is Jordan Levi. And so Dr. Bob, Jordan, would you mind just briefly telling the audience about yourselves?
So, I'll go real quick. Bob Delmore here. Grew up in California, did my education in California, Nebraska, and Colorado State. And then I had the opportunity, so I spent 6 years in industry. Got to work with the folks at Farmer John down in Los Angeles, California. Had the opportunity to go into academia and spent 9 years at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I met the Dr. Phil. And worked on a lot of different things there. We built a facility, grew a program, and we enjoyed our time there. Had the opportunity to come back to Colorado State University. Had the opportunity to build another facility that we've just opened. Work with a fantastic group up here. And then about a year and a half ago, I met Jordan, and we'll talk a little bit more about that topic. But we're working on this project and lots of others here. Jordan?
Excellent. Thanks, Dr. Delmore. My name is Jordan Levi. I'm originally from Chicago. Went to Babson College, it's a business school out in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And my primary business is a company called Arcadia Asset Management. And we're a physical commodity hedge fund, if you will. In 2018, my group, along with our partners, purchased Five Rivers Cattle Feeding, which is the world's largest cattle feeding operation, with a one-time capacity hovering around 1 million head of cattle. Moved here from Oklahoma City, now in northern Colorado. In addition to my day job, my wife and I co-founded a program called Beef Sticks for BackPacks, which we'll discuss later today. And in addition to that, I volunteer my time during the fall semester at Colorado State, where I'm adjunct faculty and teach a course called the Commodity Trading Experience. So that's how I got to meet Dr. Delmore, and I'm excited to talk about what he and I are doing together as it relates to meats and as it relates to philanthropy and business.
It's awesome. Could you tell us a little bit, Jordan, about your meat science background? How do you got into this awesome project?
Well, I have a very limited meat science background, to be quite honest. And I didn't grow up in the livestock business or the meat business. I'm actually the son of an automobile dealer, and my passion was commodities trading. And as part of commodities trading, I wanted to learn the physical side of the business. And once I learned the physical side of the business, or got introduced to the physical side of the business, specifically live cattle production or cattle production, I call what we call the cattle bug, and became extremely interested in cattle production, and it became my newest passion. And so if I was able to combine my commodity trading with my livestock production and continue to learn livestock production, I figured my career would be in a really great place and provide some kind of personal utility. With respect to meat science background, my meat science background is every Thursday going to visit Dr. Bob. And I hope he doesn't get annoyed with my questions because I didn't take his courses, but I tend to want to learn all aspects of this business. And Bob's been an excellent resource. And as Phil can attest, he's very easy to approach, and he's super easy to ask questions to and get straight answers.
Well, and I'd love to just dive into the meat of the subject. And yes, that was a pun. And I've been practicing that all day to get ready for that question. But tell us a little bit more about the Beef Sticks for BackPacks program. What inspired this, and how did Colorado State get involved? And hopefully that's a question for both of you.
Yeah, Bob, I'll start with the genesis of how this started, and you can explain how CSU got involved, if that works.
Absolutely.
So when my wife and I moved to Colorado following the acquisition of Five Rivers, we had thought about what can we do to give back to an industry that's been super good to us. And there was a program in Texas called Snack Pack for Kids. And Snack Pack for Kids provides these backpacks to students and children who are food insecure. So there are many students, and approximately 400,000 in our state of Colorado, that are food insecure. They get their only meals at school, both breakfast and lunch. And then on the weekends, there's this gap. And that gap is fulfilled by a backpack program. And so when we went to the Texas program, we noticed that the feature was this beef stick. It's sponsored by the beef industry. It was high protein, high quality. And I looked at my wife and I said, the cattle business has been good to us. We just moved to a new community. How can we make an additional impact? And she said, well, why don't we try to imitate or emulate just the beef stick portion of that backpack program in Texas? And so we worked real hard with the Texas program to understand what they're doing. And then we approached CSU and said, hey, you are one of the premier meat science departments in the United States and probably the world. We have this great idea. We think we could do a great joint promotion where we can, one, advance the initiatives of the beef industry, two, advance the outreach of the CSU meat science department, and three, most importantly, make an impact on childhood hunger. And that's ultimately how the Beef Sticks for Backpack program was built. And so then I can turn the mic over to Dr. Bob, and he can explain how CSU got involved and how it all worked.
So in typical fashion, those that know me, when Jordan came here and said that he had this great idea, I said, well, thank you very much, but I don't know if this is for us. And then a week later, we started on the project. And Jordan is very gifted, very dynamic, very forward thinking, and he had an excellent idea. And it was just my trepidation of trying to figure out how we were going to do it correctly, because we wanted to make sure that whatever we were going to do, obviously it had to be safe, obviously it had to taste good, but it also had to fit into the teaching, research, and outreach that we do at the university. So we started on the development phase, and at the same time, Jordan, again, with a lot of foresight, got other folks involved. And he reached out to JBS, and JBS was very responsive. In fact, one of the members of their team, Al Byers, was extremely interested in this project. And so we've done a phenomenal job of getting it going with our team and our students here. But JBS and Al Byers were right there, and they were helping us with some of the things that might be trip ups. So we did the development work. Our crew put together a really nice formula. And then we started to look at some of the equipment needs. Originally, Jordan, and he'll dispute this with me, but originally he said, we'd like to do 1,000 a week. And then the number quickly changed to 5,000 a week. Then it went to 7,500 sticks. And now we produce 12,000 sticks a week, and we're going to 15,000 sticks a week in the fall. So when we started this, those that are familiar with university meat labs, packaging equipment typically is not much more extensive than a single vacuum machine, a double chamber vacuum machine. And in our small ready to eat room, we had a single chamber vacuum machine. We had good ovens. We had an okay stuffing system. And so we started making sticks, and we could quickly see that the backlog was going to be in packaging. We worked with lots of different suppliers. They helped with casing needs. They helped with ingredients. They helped with manufacturing. I mean, obviously we're good at manufacturing, but when you're manufacturing something that's for delivery each week, needs to be a net weight item each week, needs to have a robust shelf life, needs to taste good, look good, have all the label information correctly on there. Different folks stepped up. Meyer Natural was very helpful in getting both raw material and also helping us with labeling. And then a variety of people started to jump in on the project with equipment. We were working with our students. We were working with, at that point, our meat lab manager part-time. Then our meat lab manager had another opportunity. And so Lynn Delmore jumped in on this. A bunch of other folks jumped in, and we started making sticks regularly and delivering sticks each week to the different folks that need these programs. We could spend an hour and a half just talking about the food insecurity issue. I was a neophyte in that. I'm still very inexperienced in that. Suffice it to say, we were at the facility this weekend packing some bags with coincidence. And we had the whole department there, and the amount of bags that we had to pack, which was just one day for 1 week in one backpack program in Colorado, is amazing and depressing at the same time. So the food insecurity issue is real. Jordan identified that the bags that the folks put together are great, but typically they're a little more heavy in the carbohydrates, and they lack a little bit in the protein because the protein is expensive. And I do want to talk a little bit about that maybe later on. Jordan was smart in reaching out to folks that have raw materials. And we can talk a little bit about how we price this and how we make this, but we make and produce now each week 12,000 individual sticks for programs throughout the state of Colorado. And I think we have a little piece of Wyoming that we're doing, and we'll expand from the 12,000 that we're doing right now to 15,000 in the fall. And the last thing that I'll say is we recognize that 15,000 sticks is about, I don't know, probably 6 minutes at a big plant that does this day in and day out, but we're doing it in a small production facility with students. So the students are our team members that are working in the plant. They have oversight from myself and some other folks, but the students are doing this. And that's something that we're gonna expand going forward. We can talk about that from a curriculum standpoint. We wanna see where we can use this model as part of our curriculum.
And we really applaud you for that. And I'm sure a lot of people are proud. And this is a good conversation to have, because especially other folks that are not familiar with this program in other states, even internationally, that listen to this podcast can get to know more about this program. And I have just maybe a couple questions, but the first one would be, how does this operate? I mean, you get donations. I'm talking about raw material companies that get that to you. How do you make, because I mean, you got to pay students. I mean, obviously you're helping the community, but at some point it has to make money somewhere. Or am I wrong with that? Or how does that, I mean, how can you make it work?
Great question, Francisco. And so like many things I do, I say, if I build it, it will come. And so Bob came and he helped us. But ultimately we set up a 501c3 charity. And we got some real great help from the Beef Checkoff of Colorado, who helped fund our initial efforts, if you will, in terms of creating marketing and videos and visuals. And then from there, Five Rivers stepped up pretty good. My personal company, Arcadia Asset Management, stepped up. And once we took the lead, we saw our peers in the livestock industry really come together. And so we've raised the bulk of our money has come from either the livestock business or ancillary businesses around the livestock production chain. And to us, that's what's super exciting. I think when you look at the program, one of the reasons we chose, beef sticks, or one of the reasons we wanted to do this, is that livestock producers, people in the ag community, are excellent at giving. They're really bad about telling people that they gave. And so that's part of the reason we're in this mess, is people just think we're a bunch of guys that wear cowboy hats and take everything off the land and never give back. But that's not the truth. And so part of the motivation is to get everybody to say, look at the great things we're doing for kids in Colorado and look at the impact that we're having on the kids in Colorado. So that allows for the sustainability of donations and allows us to produce beef sticks. Second thing is, look, we have a lot of producers in our backyard and we're able to capitalize, if you will, on their generosity. And, look, our product is primal cuts. It just happens to be bench trimmings. And so we do provide a high quality product, but it's bench trimmings. And, there's not a huge market for bench trimmings and it's not a high cost product. So we're pretty excited about what we've got going into the product. The next thing is where we combine business with academics. And so we learned so much from Bob about food safety, about quality, about consistency. And I think in turn, we helped him learn about scale, about, utilization of newer or equipment that was given to him as opposed to some of the equipment that was worn out. And so, we've been trying to drive costs down, and just like we try to do driving costs down at the feedlot or driving costs down at the packing plant. And so, we have taken our product through scale, through donations, through tweaking, through meat science. We've taken that cost down about 60-70% from when we first started. And I think that speaks huge volumes to what Bob can teach at the university and what we can give back to the university for allowing us to do this incredible program there.
I think Jordan is summed it up. I'll add just a couple of points. The folks at JBS, again, lots of people with the companies were very interested in participating. So we had JBS controllers, industrial engineers come over at different times. They helped us build a cost plus model that we follow. I mentioned my friend Al Byers. We'll make sure Al gets a copy of this because Al is transitioning in different jobs, and Al is an old school, hard-nosed meat plant guy. And so Al will text me or call me in the middle of the night wanting to know, where we are on this issue, how are we doing on this, when is this new piece of equipment coming? And I joke that he's, transitioning, and so I'm his plant employee. But Al has done a good job of reminding us what we need to do. And so we're on a cost plus model. In fact, we have a meeting Friday looking at our costs. Yes, there has to be, it has to be economical to go forward and do, whether this was being done in a company or at a university. So the group, we're not in the business to get rich on this. It needs to fit in our teaching model. If there's a little bit of excess revenue at the end of the day to help us fix equipment that we break. And again, those that are listening that work with small universities, our large universities know we break things all the time. So if there's a few dollars to cover that, we do cover our costs, obviously, with the students. And then we've had gifts. We had a family give money to support a young person to oversee the project. And so we've got Kyle Harrington, who works with us, and he is leading the day-to-day efforts. Because even though we're making small amounts, we still have to have that leader that's out there working with the students each day. The other thing is there's a list of partners. And if you go to the website, Beef Sticks for BackPacks, there's a list of the partners that have stepped up. And to a person, between the people that we've called, Jordan's called, Al's called, folks have stepped up and they've been willing to help either with their time or their material or their equipment. And that's what makes this workable. Because at the end of the day, and our president at the university, we had her come through and pack sticks with us a couple weeks back. This is all about feeding kids. And so this isn't, at the end of the day, this isn't about Bob's ego or Jordan's ego. This is about, we're delivering protein to kids who need it. Kids aren't in any position to be debating about whether they're working hard enough or whether they should be getting benefits. That's not the case. These are kids that between, on the weekend, sometimes maybe the only food they're going to get is whatever's between the back of the quick store and the front of the quick store. And that's not right. And so the group that puts these sticks together, they do a great job. And we're happy to, work with Jordan's, efforts in his charity and the other charities to get this protein out there.
I think when you look at the pillars, this is what makes it so awesome is that you've got, us livestock guys or cattle feeders are the ones really helping raise the money. And then you've got the technical expertise from the packers that are involved with us, specifically Meyer and JBS. And then you have the incredible expertise of what they're doing at CSU, and it just works. Everybody can focus on their core competencies to achieve that common goal, which Bob outlined, which is to feed kids.
Gosh, yeah, and emphasize your strengths and the strengths of the members of the team. This is just an amazing model and a great example of how, if you do use the strengths of the team, you can go an awful long way with maybe a lot fewer inputs as far as overall dollars. You're finding that economy, that efficiencies to make this really powerful movement sustainable. And I want to touch a little bit on the beef sticks themselves. And Dr. Bob, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. And you kind of mentioned this, but the nutritional value of having animal protein in the diet, especially in a growing body, young kids, is immense. And just getting calories in, yes, I mean, sometimes that's just what we need to do at a food bank. We need to get just sustenance. But to help the growing body thrive, having that animal protein in their diet is absolutely critical. Dr. Bob, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Absolutely. Jordan, one of the things when he was doing his first investigation is, people were very excited when he told them that, hey, we've got the opportunity to deliver the beef stick. The goal is to get 2 beef sticks in each bag for the weekend. He quickly reached out to the industry, and the raw material, I can't overemphasize, and we don't talk about this in a podcast that's not related to meat science, but the bench trimming raw material is a frozen raw material that's in a box. We receive that boxed raw material. It fits perfectly in our system. We temper that, and then we grind it. So when we formulated this, it's a product that has a very robust, what I would just call kind of a beef flavor. It doesn't have any allergens in it because obviously we didn't want to have an issue with young people that have allergens. It is a cured product. It also has 3 CCPs. It's an acidified. So for the purists that always ask me, why we don't ferment, we know how to ferment. We make fermented beef sticks for our day-to-day operations. But when we're working with newer groups of people each week and students, because we do have a lot of turnover with young people and students graduating, so we acidify the product. It's fully cooked. Obviously, it needs to be fully cooked with the raw material that we're using, and then it's dried. So that beef sticks is a 1 ounce product. We could have another conversation. I spent time in industry, so I understand net weight items, but in academia, net weight items is not something we spend a lot of time with. So it's a net weight item. It's packed in a roll stock machine, and those folks they stepped right out. Multivac said, yeah, we'll give you the smallest machine because you can't keep up with our smallest machine. And we said, we understand that. And so we put that machine in. We started up with that. And so, that product goes out each week. We've got a modest shelf life on it. We're running an extended shelf life project this summer, but we've got a modest 6 months because quite frankly, we make the product, we deliver the product, the kids consume the product. At first I thought Jordan and his friends were kind of, blowing smoke, but the stories I've heard from many people is the kids will reach into the bag and they'll pull these out. If you look at the labeling, and I apologize, we didn't get them to you ahead of time, but we'll get you the sticks. If you look at the labeling, it doesn't look like government cheese, and no disrespect to government cheese in the early days. And I appreciate what the government has done, but it doesn't look like something that they're eating that's wrong. It doesn't look like a donation. It's got really high quality graphics on it. Obviously it's compliant with everything related to USDA FSIS. And so, the kids eat it, they like it. We watch the fat content a little bit, mostly because again of the target audience that we have. We didn't want it to be, too greasy. We need to come in at a price point, but we want the palatability, high. We want them to enjoy it. A few thoughts.
I didn't understand why we use citric acid. And so right on this podcast, I'm learning more about meat science and I'm learning more from Dr. Bob. And what amazes me is this looked like such an easy thing to do. And I said, Bob, how hard is it to make a beef stick? You guys sell them at your store. Just make the beef stick and we'll get a label and we'll go. And then, as we got our partners and we had Dr. John Skanga from Meyer, he's like, no, we got to get it registered with the USDA. I said, well, how hard can that be? And then we had to get some kind of bug. And then a USDA person needs to be, and by bug, I mean a USDA label bug.
Right.
And then we got to have a USDA person there because it's a USDA facility. And if that person leaves, we can't do anything. And I said to Bob, I said, come on, let's just make sticks. And he's like, well, the bottleneck is the vacuum sealer. I said, come on, Bob. You mean to tell me you can't do 1,000 sticks in a day? He says, come on and volunteer. Next thing you know, I'm 8 hours in there and it's we got 300 or 400. And then I finally saw the light. And so, as a non-meathead, this looks like a really simple project. And now that we've got it going, it's more simple. But, it's just interesting to see the continued learning. And as people in academia, I think you can really appreciate that.
Well, and look at all of those learning opportunities, and Jordan, I mean, the fact that we're sharing amongst ourselves here information and gleaning new information beyond just the listeners that are out there. That's pretty cool. But look at I mean, I was writing down all of the teaching opportunities that the students are benefiting from, just flat out meat processing. Okay. And that is a semester or two long bit of information in its own right, but applied. And these students are going to be able to go out and get involved in the meat industry with that experience, the teamwork, the productivity, the handling, food safety. Oh my gosh, is so critical, regardless of the audience, but your focus is on children here. And so it's just that much more important to maintain the utmost food safety, the nutritional value, the shelf life, because these are going in backpacks, not refrigerated environments. And so so many other facets that go into maintaining the quality of it. And then all the way down to the labeling and marketing. I mean, that was beyond anything that I thought we were going to discuss today. But if the kids don't want to eat it, it doesn't matter. And if they're not willing to open the package or even look at it, it doesn't matter. And I'm saying this because I have so much passion for feeding the youth, feeding everyone in this country for that matter. There's no reason for people to go hungry in this country, but it is a reality. But sometimes we miss that connection of it's still the people that have to want to eat it. And we have so much interest in trying to provide a lot of stuff, but if the people don't want that or aren't willing to even open it and consume it, then we're missing that boat. And I need to make one more point to the audience that's out there listening, especially because we have a lot of medium to small processors out there listening. There's a lot of discussion about plant-based protein. You can get a lot of protein from a lot of different sources. Animal source protein, however, actually has all of the building blocks that the body needs and is absolutely critical to a growing body. Many of us could still eat a bean patty and we'll be full and we'll be happy and we're probably going to survive just fine. But for those who are food insecure, who maybe have a very high carbohydrate intake, but a low protein intake, their bodies are not going to grow appropriately. And it's going to be a very long-term reality effect on those bodies. And so the movement that you guys have started is so powerful. And the changes you're making in the lives of these young folks is unbelievable. So I really thank you for that.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Phil.
We're almost getting to the end of this podcast, and we have a lot to talk. And I hope that we can have Dr. Delmore back on the Meat Spot podcast later this year to talk more about meat science and what a little bit about what he does on a daily basis. But for those folks that are listening, they're in other countries, have you guys looked at a different form? Let's say another meat product. If so, if you guys have some thoughts on that for other communities, I know you're focusing a lot in the state of Colorado, and a follow-up with that would be, have you guys thought about, I mean, I don't know, down the road, scaling it up to help feeding maybe other kids, maybe in Africa or some countries that have this food security issue? So
I think if I could, I'll give you kind of our big picture. The first and most important thing is, from an academic perspective, Dr. Bob is going to teach us at CSU a beef stick or snack stick class. And so what we're going to do is not only train people how to make an incredible program or product, but we're also going to give them awareness of how many people are hungry in their own backyard and in the backyards that they came from. And as you know, we have a large international population at CSU, and we have a diverse background, if you will, of where and what states those students come from. And so we're not only teaching them to make the stick, but we're teaching them to be conscious and to be really good citizens of their communities. And so that dual teaching should translate into a couple of things. The first thing is that we need to make this to be quote unquote sustainable. And how do we do that? We start to sell the product. And so we're going to have a commercial kind of version of the beef stick where you buy one, give one. So if I sell one for $2, you'll give one, free to the charity, and that will go into the backpack programs. Beyond that, I envision the program either co-packing for other states or other livestock communities that want to emulate or imitate this operation, or those students that will graduate from Dr. Bob's class will be able to begin or start their own programs throughout the country or throughout the world. And so, our initial focus is in our own backyard. Once we solve the 400,000, then we're going to move on to new communities. And that means Dr. Bob will have to budget for a bigger facility.
We've been asked a lot about that and about the where we grow out of it. And we're not there today. We are having discussions about it. At some point, we will exceed what is reasonable at the university. That's not for a while. There's a couple of different models and some things. We're talking to some folks. One of the reasons that we started making it is there wasn't a lot of opportunity close and in the state that were interested in doing that. Obviously, there's co-packers all across the country. The other thing is that, it's obviously about feeding kids, but I think Jordan's right. The service teaching model that a friend of mine is teaching me about, I think it's something that we need to do a better job of here, and I think this fits it well. There's lots of programs. Our friends at Hormel have done a phenomenal job with the SPAMI program. That's a big program where they're making shelf-stable items, and they're making sure that those shelf-stable items are able to get into programs across the world. They were designed in such a way that they would not be taken from women and children, by nefarious means. And so it's a very well designed program. The beef stick one is interesting because again, I go back to the raw material. The raw material is something that we can draw from each week. We get it in monthly, but it's nice because it fits a small manufacturing. We're not having to worry about combo bins, which is important for our day-to-day operation, but fits the batching style that we do. So we're excited about where it's going. We are very excited about being able to sell them to support the charity. I mean, at the end of the day, we will sell those in our store along with other folks. We've got a caddy that just got approved. We can do another podcast on USDA labeling. No disrespect to our friends, but we all know it can be complicated. So we've got a caddy that we're going to start packing, which is going to serve nice because we let Jordan come in and we dressed him out and taught him how to function in a ready-to-eat environment because we make all these in our ready-to-eat room. But volunteering in meat manufacturing, and even in a small scale, isn't the best. But we have a lot of volunteers. Jordan has a lot of folks that want to volunteer. So one of the things that they'll do is they'll come in and they'll pack the caddies, and then we'll sell the caddies. And I think the caddies will sell very well. We've had a lot of interest about people buying the stick, and then that'll continue to generate to generate the money so that we can deliver those sticks each week. We've not missed a week, and I think we've exceeded now 250,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's in excess of 250,000. That's correct.
And so we've been able to do that all through the COVID. And I got to give my crew a shout out here. We did not miss a beat through anything miss a step, through anything. They were here through the entire process when we didn't know what COVID was, when we didn't have enough PPE, when we had too much PPE. And so they were here the entire time we made sticks. They did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Your team did absolutely amazing on a startup business. Startup businesses, startup ideas always, have stumbling blocks, and that's without COVID. So yeah, your team did an awesome job.
I like Jordan because he answers my phone and he answers my questions when I ask dumb questions about, why cattle are so expensive. And he says, well, you got to take my class and stuff like that. But we had a couple of stumbles. We made a couple of mistakes. We're dealing with, with a startup, but he didn't get impatient with us and he didn't get frustrated with us, which is a good business model. He knew that, he was less than happy. We had a couple of hiccups in the beginning, but we got through the hiccups. We figured out, what to correct. And he was very patient with us. And that's important just from a business standpoint, to work with folks that, that have very high integrity, and everybody in this step. And I mean this genuinely, otherwise I wouldn't bring it up. When we've asked for help on something that we were struggling with, we're very, very quick to help. I called Dr. Bass. I called John Henson. I called Steve Lonergan. I had a couple of weird little things early on, and all of them, were very quick to talk with me, Mahesh, in our building here. We're very quick to give us some ideas on how to tweak things. And now, like you said, now it's kind of fun. I mean, the only thing was this morning somebody dropped the $600 pH probe, and so now we got to buy a new pH probe. But that's okay. That's learned by doing. Phil broke a lot of stuff when he was a kid. So
Dr. Lynn Delmore did a lot for us as well.
Yeah, Lynn was
figuring you out.
Lynn, and well, that's a full-time job, but Lynn and Brittany Bullard and Joe Bullard was our meat lab manager at the beginning of this, and he did a bunch of the startup work on that. And then Brittany and Lynn put together the regulatory components for us. We will work to be BRC certified. We're moving forward on that so that we can have full audits. We've had a lot of visitors, a lot of industry visitors that have come in, and it's been fun. We do a lot of tours. We show people what we're doing, and that's maybe something that we're learning about. I asked Lynn what I should cover this morning, and she just typed back one word, and she said, just make sure you talk. And we're trying to talk not because it's about us. At the end of the day, this is clearly about one group of individuals who have no choice in not having enough nutrition on the weekend. And if this is a small part of what we can do to get one little piece of it somewhere, that's what we're going to do. And if somebody else has an idea and needs some questions asked, I mean, if somebody wants to know about 501c3 startups, I'm sure Jordan would take her phone call. I'll take people's phone call, and I do it all the time, of people that want to do similar projects.
All right. Well, thank you again. This has been a great conversation. I think I wasn't aware of this program, and when Dr. Bass mentioned it, it was like, oh, this is really a good opportunity, and it all comes down to sustainability. And I'm sure through this program and other programs that down the road for this growing population in 2050, we have to be more effective in the ways we produce meat and the ways we get to those folks in those communities. They need protein, and yeah, I'm really excited for this, and just continuing that conversation. Maybe have you back, Dr. Delmore, to talk about USDA meat product labeling in the future.
So if I could just have one more comment, Francisco, which is, we'd love to get feedback from our fellow meat peers and meatheads, like I like to call them. And come check out our website at beefsticks.org. It's pretty easy to remember, beefsticks.org. If you got any ideas, look, we're not too proud to take them. At the end of the day, we are trying to feed kids. So we're open to ideas. We're open to suggestions. You want to donate, we won't say no to your money or your time. And it'd be really cool to hear from as many of you as that want to reach out.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that we put that website on the program and give you guys information on the description of the podcast episode. Again, thank you a lot for your time. Thank you a lot for what you're doing, supporting the community, helping and supporting those kids that are food insecure. Thank you a lot for everything, and hope to see you soon sometime.
Thanks for giving us the platform, Francisco. I'm really excited to hear the podcast, and we'll send Phil a balloon and that maybe we'll get to him and we'll thank him for his time. And Dr. Bob, as always, thank you.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate the opportunity.